How's it going, guys? Got another realistic receiver, and there is no video on this thing at all on YouTube, so I figured I would make one. And then the problem that this have, I'm sure a lot of people are having with it, if you have one sitting around, it is a STA-780. This is one of the cheaper models from Radio Shack, and it shows because the problem with it completely with capacitors. There is like a couple Elnas in here, but for the most part they got this Delcon, and it's like every one of these is bad in this machine. Like every one. I've seen right here is all the amplifier and power supply caps. This brand right here, you can see the caps, these caps, all blowed up. I wasn't too sure if I'd be able to fix it, because basically what it would do is that you turn it on and it lit up all nice and pretty. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but this is green. Tuner worked, it locked into stations. Actually, tuner works really well. If it is a bad, we got these bad caps on the the power supply and the amplifier section, you'd think the caps in the rest of this machine would be crap, but I don't know, it seems like they're okay. There is quite a bit of heat, maybe it's just heat damage. Pretty much from like here over, I've changed them. And as I changed them, one time I changed one and all of a sudden it started coming back to life, but it was kind of weak, real weak on one side. I think it was the right side was real weak. And then changed some more caps. And now we got,
Come on, are you ready?
see if we can tie some talk radio.
Here's a look at your morning forecast on the new Big Hits WBTC. For today, mostly cloudy and a high near 20. For tonight, mostly cloudy and a low near...
Oh, it's cold outside. Right now I have two 1000 microfarad caps on the main rails, just because I had to order some and got them in. Got some Rubicons. These $10 shipped for two of them. And look at this. They're not even the same dimensions. But, beggars can't be choosers. I was kind of looking at... It kind of sucks whenever you buy things for something. You kind of want to keep things at a minimum, just in case you can't get it working. And then it just turns into some parts that you got sitting around for it, and indefinitely. You see here I got a bunch of the tabs of the capacitors hanging out the side, because same reason. If I couldn't get it to work, then I can pull all those capacitors back out, put them back in my drawer, and part it out or whatever. Right now there is an oscillation. I don't know if you can hear it. It's a high pitch oscillation, but if you switch out to one of the auxiliaries, any of them, oscillation goes away. Turn it up. You do get a faint rumble when you do turn it up, but it is a cheap machine to begin with, so it probably had it to begin with. Oh. So I'm actually surprised at how well the bass handles with those little caps. Those are 1000 microfarad, and it's supposed to have 6800s in it. I actually had a notion just to put paralleled sets of 1000s in there and call it a day, because the legs don't match up, and I had to drill holes into the board to get this to go in there, and it's just like, it probably worked just fine with the wattage capability of the machine with two 4000 microfarads, but given that it runs okay, but these are little speakers, it runs okay. I actually see the lights flicker because probably the caps have to keep recharging. Uh, but anyway, so I don't know. I guess I'll drill holes and put these in there. It'd be the proper way to do it. I mean, not drilling holes and buying ones of the right dimensions would be the proper way. But you know, something like this really isn't worth much more than what I paid for it broke. Another thing too is this thing was supposed to work. They said they tested it. I think all they did was they did plug it in and seen that it lit up, but they didn't hook any speakers to it because there is no way this thing worked or even worked right if it did work at all for them. Because when I got it, it just did nothing at all, no sound at all. And as I changed the caps, it would kind of like you turn it on, it would kind of fade into sound. And then as I got the caps replaced, it has a bit of delay, but it's kind of designed that way, I believe. Same way when you shut it off, there's a little bit of delay. There's no speaker protection system in it as far as a relay. It does seem to have one right around this area right here. It's a system that just disconnects maybe the preamp, but alright, well, now that it seems to be working, I'll cut off all those. Cutting off those tabs or those capacitors might help with the oscillation, but I think the oscillation is coming from the tuner. It's just bleeding over. It doesn't have a good shielding. Pretty much you got the tuner, the tuner stuff right here, and it's right next to other amplifier type stuff, so there's probably no way of getting rid of the oscillation. It's probably there to begin with. I think I might have a sheet. Maybe if I shove, I got a sheet maybe I could shove in between. It's an insulator for that. Maybe if I shove a sheet in between the tuner and the other board. But anyway, we'll see what we get. Alright, we got the filter caps in there. And I didn't have to drill any holes. Basically, there is pads for just foundation. The original capacitors had 3 legs, and one of them is just a dummy, and it's just a foundation pad. It's not connected to anything, and I just dropped it into the into those, and then just put jumpers in over to the supply it needed to go. But I need to clean up some of that flux. Alright, I turned the lights off on my bench so you guys can kind of see what these lights look like. I'll cover up that one, it's kind of saturating things, but yeah, it lights up this whole display. Replaced quite a few more caps. I got them laying right there. I think actually some of them rolled off my bench. Kind of narrowed it down. If you don't have any sound, it's not having any sound at all, that capacitor right there. Like you're looking at the amp board, that one right there, and then there's one over here, right there. Right there. It pretty much, if that capacitor is bad, you're not going to have any sound. And all you got to do is like touch it, and just touching it has an effect on crackling in the speakers and stuff. I cannot get rid of the oscillation whenever the tuner's on. I tried putting a piece of aluminum foil inside of the envelope, and I just, by the time I would have got it down in there, I was afraid it would poke a hole in it because it's short. I was going to try to squeeze it down in between these two boards right here, and then kind of overlap, the amplifier board. Try to help get rid of that noise, but I'm just too scared of it. But well, anyway, I think it's about ready to put back together. There is a couple caps right down in there on that main board. They're pretty much tone control, and the tone controls work pretty decent. So I just don't really see any sense in getting to them. I did get back in there quite a bit. Pretty much the capacitors that has black spots on top is the replaced ones. I'll replace a couple of larger ones up here. just because it just seems like the larger ones is the ones that, I got a tester. The larger ones are the ones that seem to be the worst, or ones that has a lot of voltage going through. They can be small with a bunch of voltage and they're junk. But seems like controls, things that has to do with like controlling the sound or the tuner or the controls up here, they seem to be alright, other than the big ones. I see a lot of older receivers either use AA batteries to keep the memory, or they use the super cap. It's like a little battery capacitor. I mean, capacitor is kind of like a battery, but it's a little super cap, they called it. And these just use a standard capacitor. So I think it's kind of interesting. All the realistic ones that I have with the digital tuner has just a capacitor. They're only good for about a week or two, holding the memory. I actually found this one just because I discharged it. It's somewhere. It's either this one or this one. I actually discharged it with my fingers and lost my memory. But I guess we're ready to put this back together. Put the top back on and stuff. Alright, got it all back together. And here's the parts changed. I ended up changing a few more capacitors up here in the front down there on the main board. And I think it still has that oscillation. Not as loud. It seemed like it got quieter once I put the case on it. Might have grounded more things together, maybe. I don't know.
On a large 3-topping pizza, you give the Domino's employee
Something interesting is that it does actually play stations. It only gets one signal bar on.
topping pizza. You give the Domino's employee more than
When you hit FM mute, it cancels the station out. But then you can mono it. Make it sound a little better.
And so you danced and ate Domino's.
It's pretty good reception.
First National Bank of Denison. How do you find the one click sends your
Alright, well, I think that's about all I got for this video. See you guys in the next one.